Hey, welcome back to the channel. So I thought it was high time to do a kind of a review video of the LUMIX S9 here. I've had this camera for a couple of months now. I've been using it quite a bit, I guess you would say. And I have some pretty strong thoughts about it and thought that that might be helpful for you if you're considering buying something like the S9. Now we gotta get three things out of the way real fast that may be deal breakers for everybody, okay? First of all, up here, there is no hot shoe. It's only a cold shoe. So you can't use any kind of flash or any kind of audio device that might plug into some of the other LUMIX cameras. This is just strictly for to hold your microphone, really. That's, you know, your wireless microphone unit. That's pretty much all I found it for. It's complete dummy. So that might be a deal breaker for you. The other one is there's no viewfinder. And that kind of sucks because it forces you to use the screen here. And the screen is okay, but a lot of times what I see on the screen is not what I see when I'm reviewing my photos and videos. Sometimes it'll look like crap on the screen and it'll look fine when I get it into post, and sometimes vice versa. So the screen, it's decent, but it's not always the most accurate thing, you know, that you have. And with this camera, that's all you have to see the world with is the screen. Now I find myself, even when I'm using something like the A7R5, it has a fantastic viewfinder, but I'm not using it just a whole lot. Mainly I use the viewfinder for reviewing photos to make sure everything looks good before I go on to the next photo. That's primarily what I use the viewfinder for. Most of the time I'm using the back screen. But you don't have the option for this S9 to do that. So just be aware, no viewfinder. It kind of sucks sometimes. And when you get out in bright sunlight, it's pretty difficult to see. So you're really just kind of trusting the camera to do what it does. And most of the time it comes out, but sometimes it doesn't. So another thing that this camera doesn't have is a mechanical shutter. Sometimes it can cause banding under certain lighting conditions, LED lights, things like that. It can cause rolling shutter sometimes. And also you can't use a flash, obviously, at all with this camera. Not only because of hot shoe, but also because the no shutter. The main thing about only having an electronic shutter is this. It's that digital shutter sound that cameras put into their bodies now. I absolutely hate the way this thing sounds when I take a photo, but that's the biggest drawback to me. I just hate the way it sounds. So I want to talk about the body a little bit of the camera. Just out of the box, it is pretty much the most uncomfortable camera that I've ever used. You're definitely going to have to buy a cage or a small grip, this small grip extension with the extra handle on here. Don't even consider buying this camera without some kind of grip extension. The small rig one is okay, but still the camera is uncomfortable to hold for long periods of time. It's just not the most comfortable handle in the world. I cannot pick this camera up without my thumb going right across these buttons right here. Every time I pick it up, my thumb hits these buttons. Sometimes it changes stuff, sometimes it doesn't change stuff. Most of the time it does though, and I have to really be careful of what I'm doing. But every time I pick this camera up, I don't know, it's just where my thumb naturally sits. I'm smashing one of these buttons or the wheel or the ISO button or something. Something's getting fiddled with. A big one for me is the SD card is down in the battery compartment. That's not just a huge deal. They had the memory card down here, but sometimes it's just a little bit of a pain because you have this extra extension grip on there to get the memory card out. It's kind of a pain. Also, another thing about the body is I'm always touching the screen somehow. I'm always doing something on accident, hitting the screen and activating. Most of the time it's some kind of odd focus thing. So every time I use the camera, and you've probably seen some of the shots that I've taken with it, some of the video I've taken with it have been out of focus. And the reason is because I inadvertently hit the screen, change it to lock, you know, or single point focus instead of tracking eye focus. and that's kind of a bummer. You have to be really careful with that. In fact, I've programmed a button on this camera to turn off the screen touch settings, because sometimes I just want them off. I don't want but that's kind of the things with the body that I've noticed so far. We can talk about the photo aspects of the camera a little bit. I think that there ought to be a differentiation between a photo camera and a snapshot camera. A photo camera is like a camera you're going to take like paid photography work with, or you're going to do some photography work, you know, like senior photos. You're going to take sports photos. You're going to take landscape photos, things like that. And then there's snapshot photos where you're on vacation with your family and you just want to take quick snapshots. It's really not that important. You're out with your buds on the night, want to take some snapshots, boom, no problem at all. This doesn't make a good photography camera. Like, I'm not taking this thing out to shoot sports. I'm not taking this thing out to take senior photos. It's just not happening. There's too many downsides of the camera. But when I go on vacation and out with my family and things like that, this camera comes in great, because it's just kind of fun to use. It's simple, it's not huge, it doesn't get in the way, and it takes excellent snapshots. Great snapshot camera, not a good photography camera. The video aspects of this camera are fantastic. There is bazillion codecs in this camera, and too many for me. Like, I wish I could grade some of them out, because a lot of them, I don't even know what they are. We'll never use them. But if there's any kind of video codec that you may want, chances are it's going to be in this camera. It also has many assist tools and all this stuff. I don't ever use that stuff. Waveforms and vector scopes and all this stuff. Like, I don't ever use that stuff, but if that kind of thing is important to you, this camera has it in there for sure. So it has the MP4 light codec, which everybody seems to like. If you're into shooting reels and you just want to get something quickly out there on the internet, you can take the video with the MP4 light, put it straight into your phone, and boom, right to Instagram or wherever you want to do it. I don't do that just a whole lot, but it's on there and it's a pretty awesome feature. It has OpenGate. Now, everybody's all wild about OpenGate. The whole YouTube space is wild about OpenGate. And for me, myself, I just cannot find a good use case for OpenGate. Now, I might be completely wrong and completely dumb. I don't know. I guess I'm just not shooting a whole lot of vertical videos, and I'm just shooting videos like this, and I get them framed up the way I want, and it's good, you know. I just don't see a lot of need for OpenGate. That's just me, but it has it in there. A lot of people love OpenGate, and that's all they freaking talk about is OpenGate. So it's in the camera. Shutter angle's in the camera. Another huge deal at the internet, YouTube, that's all they do is talk about shutter angle. Shutter angle this, shutter angle that. It's in the camera. Does it make a huge difference to me? No, I've been using Sony cameras for years to do videos. Maybe I've forgotten to switch the shutter speed a couple of times. I don't know, but it's not that big a deal to me personally. Most of the time I'm shooting aperture priority anyway, so it doesn't make a big difference to me. In fact, I was watching a YouTube video the other day. Guy was talking about shutter angle. I mean, he's like some big, filmmaking channel, and his video was 15 minutes long, and 5 minutes of it was talking about shutter angle. I'm like, let me get this straight. You're on a set, and you're doing this and doing that, making sure the light's all perfect, and your settings all set up in your camera, but you can't remember to change the shutter speed if you go from 24 to 60 frames per second. That seems kind of crazy to me, but everybody seems to love shutter angle. It's in the camera for all those who love it, okay? Autofocus on this camera is pretty good. I'm not gonna say it's Sony level yet, but it's pretty close to it. It's good enough. And a lot of times that's all you want. You just want good enough autofocus. I've used cameras like, I have a Fuji X-T32 in there. Simply cannot use it to take photos of people. It just, the autofocus is just so inconsistent on it. I just can't trust it to take photos of people. The autofocus in this is good enough. Okay? Is it the best in the world? Probably not. It's good enough. Oh, we can talk about the app a little bit. A lot of a lot of this video I can either go on for 2 hours about the app or make it as short as possible. And I think I want to try to make it as short as possible because the app, it just frustrates me to no end. It seems like every question I get answered about the app, I have 2 more questions to go on top of that. So it's just, and probably I'm just making it more confusing than it actually is. The LUMIX Lab app is great if you're just wanting to take a photo, download it into your phone, edit it a little bit, because you can only edit the JPEGs in this. You don't get to edit RAW files, so you're not getting all that great dynamic range, and you're not able to do just a whole lot. And then you want to put it straight to Instagram or whatever your social media is. It is great for that. I mean, it's awesome. The problem is when you get into the LUTs and stuff, I've made a few LUTs myself. They never look like I want them to when I get them in the camera and get them in post. They just never look like I want them to. Luckily for photos, I enjoy what's on the camera already. I use natural, Leica Classic Neo, Leica monochrome, and then I have like a retro type LUT that I use sometimes. So there's 4 LUTs that I like using in the camera. You can store like 39 different looks in this camera. That's way too many for me. I'm way too dumb for that. That's way too much for me. I like keeping it 4 at the maximum. The 4 that are in the camera I enjoy, so that's good enough for me as far as the photos. For video side of it, yeah, you can make your own LUTs and you can do this and that with the thing. And this is how I've handled it. I use what's called a photo style. And you can put like 4 or 5 photo styles on here. And what I do is I use Vlog as the base. And then I use Rec 709 as LUT number 1 at 100%. And then I have a couple of 3 or 4 LUTs that I've got off Motion Array. And I put those on top of the Rec 709 LUT. And I put those at 70–80%, so they're just giving just a little bit of extra pizzazz to the footage. That's what I do with the video. I've tried to take it farther than that. I've tried to create my own LUT. It's difficult to do for me, and I just can't get it to look right in the end. So that's about as far as I'm gonna go into the app, because it's just, I just don't think I can give enough accurate information to you to talk about it much more than that. I kind of simplified it to where I can understand it, where it works pretty good for me, and that's as far as I think I want to go with it. A few things in closing that I want to mention, okay? The menu. Now I'm coming from Sony menus, and I've been using Sony forever, so I find those pretty intuitive for myself. And plus, now you have the quick menu, you can change everything that I need to change pretty much is at a, right there at my fingertips. The LUMIX menu systems to me are just unbelievably confusing. The Q menu in this thing is fantastic. There is a ton of slots, and you can put all kinds of options in there. And pretty much anything you can need to do can be under this Q menu. It is nice. The problem I have personally is with the regular menu. Now, I'm not used to LUMIX cameras, so I haven't used the LUMIX in a long, long time. But when I go into the menus, the problem I have is there's stuff that I have no idea what it means. Okay, let's just say this, for instance, color shading compensation. I have no idea what that is. None whatsoever. Well, in Sony cameras, to their credit, I can push the trash can button and get some kind of information about what I'm doing here, what that menu setting does. There's no option to do that in here. So if I really want to look something up, if I want to figure out what that setting does, I have to go find a YouTube video and figure out what it means. So that's been a huge learning curve for me. And I just wish they would put like a little information in there so you kind of figure out what's going on. I'm sure I could read the manual. There'll be read the manual people out there. I'm not reading the manual, okay? But just overall, in general, I really do like this camera. In fact, I take it with me pretty much every day. And it's kind of like between this and the ZVE1 here. I kind of switch them out back and forth. Take one week, one the next. And I enjoy using the old LUMIX S9 just for, you know, sometimes I'll be at work and have an hour to kill or something. And say, you know what, I'm gonna shoot a video. Pull out this camera, boom, get it done. That's just the kind of camera it is. I'll be driving down the road, see something I want to take a photo of, pull this bad boy out, take a camera, take a photo. It's perfect for that. And the X-Pan, I like the X-Pan ratio. It's pretty cool. But overall, a great camera. Now, as far as value of the camera goes, that's up to each individual person. LUMIX does this thing where they bring out a camera and say, they figure out that they can make money off this camera at say $1,200, but they bring it out at $1,500. So everybody, when it first comes out, everybody's buying the camera at $1,500, and then boom, it goes on sale for $1,200, you know? So what is the value of the camera? Like, how much is this camera? I have no idea. I got it used on B&H for what I thought was an appropriate price for the camera. I'm thinking $1,200 max, $1,300 worth of lens, somewhere in there is about a perfect price for this. I would not pay full price for the LUMIX S9 because LUMIX is always putting their stuff on sale. I don't know if they're pricing, I don't know why they do that, but that's how they handle it. If you can wait, you can always catch them on sale and usually get a fair amount of money off of the camera. So the value is right. It's at $1,200, $1,300. You get up there $1,500, $1,600. That's overpriced. It's, you know, in my mind. So take that information for what you will. But that is a look at the LUMIX S9. Great little camera. Is it the best camera in the world? No. Is it the only camera you should own? Probably not, if you're going to take photo and video pretty seriously. But it's a fun camera to have, and I enjoy having it. And the main thing for me is it's just a switch up. Like I use Sony. Sometimes I want something different. This is something different, and it has good specs and good output. So that's why I enjoy it. So that's my spiel on the S9. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, make sure you drop a like. If you want to see more content like this, make sure you subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we will see you on the next one.